My name is Harper. I vividly recall that night on the highway, the red and blue lights flooding my mirrors, my hands shaking uncontrollably against the steering wheel. It was a moment that would shatter my perception of family and redefine love. Just as I neared the highway entrance ramp, the police lights hit me from behind. The sharp blast of the siren left no room for doubt. This was no ordinary stop. My stomach dropped, a familiar feeling when you're innocent but your body anticipates the worst. I pulled over immediately, turned on my hazards, and placed both hands firmly on the wheel. Another patrol car blocked the front, confirming that this was anything but routine. The loudspeaker commanded, "Driver, keep your hands visible and do not reach for anything." My hands were already trembling. I flattened them against the steering wheel and stared straight ahead. Through my side mirror, I saw an officer approaching from behind, his hand near his holster. My throat tightened, and I could barely breathe. A hard tap on the glass made me turn my head slowly, every instinct warning me to move carefully. Then, the officer leaned down to the window level, pulled off his sunglasses, and his face transformed from professional to a mix of fury and devastation. In a soft voice, so unlike his work tone, he said, "Baby, what did they do now?" It was Ryan, my fiancé. At that moment, I couldn't speak. Ugly, uncontrollable sobs racked my body. Ryan straightened up, looked at his partner who had come from the second vehicle, and said 3 words I'll never forget. Then, he deliberately turned his body camera towards my parents' house, which was less than 2 miles away, and made a call. As I sat there, my mind drifted back to 3 days earlier. My younger sister, Lily, called me in tears. She was a drama queen, always crying when she needed something. Lily claimed she was behind on rent, that her landlord was threatening eviction, and she was desperate. She needed $20,000. I listened patiently, then finally said no. It wasn't because I didn't love her. I just had lent her money 5 times before. Once, it was for a fancy vacation she said she needed for her mental health, but she ended up partying the whole time. Another time, it was for a pet she got rid of after a month. None of the money ever came back. And this $20,000 was a sum I had saved for our dream home Ryan and I planned to buy after our upcoming summer wedding. Lily cried even harder, but I held my ground. She hung up on me in a huff. Within an hour, my mother called. She was a controlling woman, always believing she knew what was best for everyone. She berated me for being selfish, saying I was turning into a cold-hearted stranger. Then my father called. He was a man of few words, but his words were like knives. He said I was shaming the family by not helping my sister. I tried to explain that I had given enough, that I had my own dreams and limits. But they didn't want to listen. By the end of the night, I was blocked on everyone's phone except my mother's. She kept sending me long messages about how disappointed she was in me. I stopped answering and went to work, trying my best to ignore the pain. 3 days passed. After a long shift at my job as a graphic designer, I climbed into my car, a silver Ford Focus that I bought with my hard-earned money, registered and insured in my name. I was lost in thought, thinking about our wedding plans and the color scheme for our future living room. Back on the highway, Ryan walked back to my window and crouched down. He asked if I was okay, and I could only manage to say I didn't know. Then he gently asked if I wanted to tell him what had happened with my family. Taking a deep breath, I poured out the whole story, from Lily's call to my parents' harsh words and the days of silence. Ryan listened intently, his face growing more solemn. When I finished, he said, "Harper, they used the police as a weapon against you. I can't ignore this, not as your fiancé and not as an officer." I understood his words, but it was a heavy realization. Despite everything, they were still my family. Ryan immediately ran the plates as soon as the call came through dispatch. He found that everything about my car was in order. But the police report listed my parents as the complainants, claiming the car was taken without permission from their property. The absurdity was clear. My car had never been parked at their house for months. It was a blatant false report, and filing one is a crime. Ryan called his sergeant and calmly explained the situation, stating only the facts. The sergeant told him to document everything and that someone would follow up with the complainants. That same night, 2 officers visited my parents' house. I wasn't there, but Ryan told me what happened later. My mother opened the door and tried to claim it was a misunderstanding, saying she thought the car had been stolen. The officer pointed out that the car was never registered at their address and asked for an explanation. My father, in his arrogance, started talking too much. He mentioned the argument about the money, and how he thought I needed to be taught a lesson. The officer documented it all. My parents weren't arrested that night, but they were formally cautioned. The false report was flagged, and they were warned that any future false reports against me or my property could lead to criminal charges. 2 days later, Lily called. Instead of an apology, she accused me of humiliating the family. I listened quietly, then calmly told her that I loved her, but I wouldn't tolerate being spoken to that way. And then I ended the call. The months that followed were tough. There were times when I missed my mother so much it was a physical ache. Ryan and I had many late-night conversations about family, boundaries, and what it means to love someone who hurts you. We didn't cancel our wedding. The following summer, we had a small ceremony with close friends, Ryan's family, and a few members of my extended family who reached out to express their apologies for what had happened. My parents were absent. It still stings sometimes, but I know I gave them a chance to acknowledge their wrongdoings, and they chose not to take it. I've left the door open for a long time, still hoping for a message from them. I'm not sure if that door will ever fully close, but I've learned that love doesn't mean accepting harm. Protecting myself is not the same as abandoning my family. And on that fateful night on the highway, the man I was about to marry showed up for me completely. Ryan never asked me to choose between my peace and my family. He simply stood by my side as I realized that I deserved both, and that I could endure even if I got neither. His love doesn't make the pain go away, but it gives me the strength to carry it without being crushed. Sometimes, that kind of love is more than enough.